Hi, my name is Omar, and we're going to be learning about the Industrial Revolution.
Hi, my name is Femi, and we're gonna be cooking some Industrial Revolution.
We're going back to the 1800s where the Industrial Revolution first started.
Whoa!
Thomas Newcomen first cleared water out of mines to find more coal. James Watt then used this coal to power up more steam engines. These steam engines led to greater inventions.
You can do what you want to do in life. Get it? James Watt.
As time grew on, people demanded more clothes, so Englishman James Hargreaves created the spinning jenny. This new machine made it possible to make more clothes and boost the economy.
They used to use stale urine to bleach these clothes. Yeah, I know, that's gross. Using coal to power up steam engines and creating the spinning jenny to make more clothes
Creates the crust to the Industrial Revolution.
By advancing technology in manufacturing, mining, and transport, the population began to increase. As a result, the working class experienced low wages and tough working conditions. Their bodies were becoming like breadcrumbs.
Speaking of breadcrumbs, I gotta go feed my chicken. Both iron and steel were mixed and used to make everything from appliances, tools and machines, ships, and buildings.
English engineer Henry Bessemer made this inexpensive process.
Low wages with population increase and many other inventions create the filling for the Industrial Revolution.
Speaking about fillings, I should be filling up my stomach right now.
Because of the low wages, workers protested the inhumane conditions.
It's like whisking two eggs together to make a protest.
What are you saying? Families let their children work to increase profits and help them survive.
Poor children back then. Nowadays, children be taking selfies on Instagram. Like, what is this?
With all these advancements mixed together, we create the Industrial Revolution pie.
Finally, I'm hungry.
Bye, and I hope you had a great time enjoying our cooking show.
Letter to the steam engine. But first, let's see what's in the secret compartment today. Oh, it's a TARDIS, truly the apex of British industrialization. Dear steam engine, you know what's crazy? You've never really been improved upon. Like this thing, which facilitates time travel, probably runs on a steam engine. Almost all electricity around the world, whether it's from coal or nuclear power, it's just a steam engine. It's all still just water and heat, and it speaks to how truly revolutionary the Industrial Revolution was, that since then, it's really just been evolution. Best wishes, John Green. So you may have heard any of those rationales for European industrialization, or you may have heard others. The problem with all of them is that each time you think you're at the root cause, it turns out there's a cause of the root cause. To quote Leonardo DiCaprio, James Cameron, and coal mine operators, we have to go deeper. But anyway, the problem with these Eurocentric why answers is that they all apply to either China or India or both. And it's really important to note that in 1800, it was not clear that Europe was going to become the world's dominant manufacturing power in the next 100 years. At the time, China, India, and Europe were all roughly at the same place in terms of industrial production. First, let's look at China. It's hard to make the European cultural superiority argument because China had been recording its history since before Confucius, and plus there was all that bronze and painting and poetry. It's also kind of difficult to make a blanket statement that China was economically inferior to Europe since they invented paper money and led the world in exports of everything from silk to China. I mean, pre-industrial revolution, population growth was the surest sign of economic success, and China had the biggest population in the world. I guess that answers the question of whether they're digital. It's also difficult to say that China lacked a culture of invention when they invented gunpowder and printing and paper and arguably compasses. And China had more free enterprise during the Song Dynasty than anywhere in the world. Some argue that China couldn't have free enterprise because they had a long history of trying to impose monopolies on items like salt and iron. And that's true, but when it comes to enforcing those monopolies, they also had a long history of failure. So really, in a lot of ways, China was at least as primed for an industrial revolution as Britain was. So why didn't it happen? Well, Europeans, specifically the British, had two huge advantages. First, coal. When you trace the story of improved transportation or communication or industrial efficiency or better chemical manufacturing, it always comes back to coal. Because the Industrial Revolution was all about using different forms of energy to automate production. And England had large supplies of coal that were near the surface, which meant that it was cheap to mine, so it quickly replaced wood for heating and cooking and stuff. So that encouraged the British to look for more coal. The only problem with coal mining, aside from it being, like deadly and everything, is that the coal mines flooded all the time. I guess coal mining is also a little problematic for like the health of the planet. But because there was all this incentive to get more coal out of the ground, steam engines were invented to pump water out of the mines. And because those early steam engines were super inefficient, they needed a cheap and abundant source of fuel in order to work, namely coal, which meant they were much more useful to the British than anyone else. So steam engines used cheap British coal to keep British coal cheap, and cheap British coal created the opportunity